Chapter 12, The Woman and the Dragon. First of all, let's look at the numerology. 12, 1 and 2 is 3. Again, the holy triad number, very important. And 12 also is the 7 of God, the number of God, and the 5, the number of the God-created man. Now, from here we start, if you like, the third cycle of telling the story. But this is from a higher level. This is from a collective consciousness level or oversoul level, if you like. But we're going back to the beginning to, again, have a story about the fall of man. So a great portent, which is a sign or a wonder, appears in heaven. A woman, and we can think about this as Mother Nature, if you like, clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. So again, the 7 and the 5 is significant there. She was pregnant and she was crying out in birth pangs, in the agony of giving birth. Then another portent sign arrived in heaven, a great red dragon. Now, what's important to understand here is if you read Genesis chapter 1, God created everything, including man. And then in chapter 2, it starts again and it says Lord God, and creates everything else again, including Adam, including man from dust. So there's the essence of everything that was created spiritually first, and then everything was created physically, materially on the earth. In between times, and you can, I think it's in Daniel and Ezekiel, chapters of the Old Testament, where it talks about Lucifer falling. Lucifer was an angel who fell out of favour, disobeyed, went against God, and came down to the earth. And many other of the angels came with him. So it's important to understand that Lucifer was already on the earth with his demons, if you like, before Adam came into being. So the idea of the woman being ready to birth the Christ, the first man, the Son of God, makes sense if you understand it in terms of Genesis, that Lucifer was already there and waiting to destroy God's creation, God's chosen son, if you like. Then another portent appeared in heaven, a great red dragon with 7 heads. I think the 7 heads is really a parody, a mimicking of God. Or it could identify that obviously Lucifer was originally an angel. 10 horns and 7 diadems on his head. His tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. I think that, the sweeping down of those that Lucifer took with him down to the earth. So his tail, it swept them up with him, with his ideology, if you like, and they all came down to earth. Then the dragon stood before the woman who was about to bear the child, so that he might devour her child as soon as it was born, because he knew this was the chosen son. And obviously, in some ways mirrors the Cain and Abel story, where the brothers, one is the chosen brother, and Cain obviously is the brother that feels jealous and ends up killing Abel. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. There's that phrase again. So this Christ was to be given all power over the earth, not Lucifer. But her child was snatched away and taken to God and to his throne. So God takes the Christ away to heaven with him to protect him. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, so that there she can be nourished for 1,260 days. So here's that time scale again. Here's that period, the numerology of the 3.5 years. So the super consciousness, or the oversoul, whatever you want to call it, goes out into the wilderness. It's not found in the body of man at that point. Then Michael defeats the dragon, and war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. So it's a battle of good and evil. And his angels fought back, but they were defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. The great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent, so again the symbology of what happened to Adam in the garden, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. That's what our ego does. It deceives us, it tricks us, it lies to us. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven proclaiming, "Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of the Messiah. For the accuser of our comrades has been thrown down, and who accuses them day and night before God? But they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb," that's the Christ, "and by the word of their testimony. For they did not cling to life even in the face of death. Rejoice then, you heavens, and those who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea," the body and the emotions, the physical man. "For the devil has come down to you with great wrath, because he knows that his time is short." So the dragon now turns his attention to physical man. The dragon fights again on the earth. So when the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. So he's still after us on that soul level as well, if you like, but also after the physical man. But the woman was given 2 wings of the great eagle, so that she could fly away from the serpent into the wilderness, to her place where she is nourished for time and times and a half time. So time is singular, times is plural, so that's 1 plus 2, and the half time, again the 3.5. Then from his mouth the serpent poured water like a river after the woman, to sweep her away with the flood. But the earth came to the help of the woman. It opened its mouth, and it swallowed the river that the dragon had poured from his mouth. Again, that idea that you're always being protected, you're always being looked after. And then the dragon was angry with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her children, those who keep the commandments of God and hold the testimony of Jesus. You have to think about Adam now. His soul, his oversoul, if you like, is now not in him. Our oversoul is in the ether somewhere, in the wilderness. But he still has a brain, he still has a mind, he still has a consciousness. And at that very early stage, the primal brain is just about the automatic processes. You know, it doesn't think deeply, it's not logical, it's not rational. That's all comes with the neocortex, the new brain that we've had for 200 million years. Really interesting numerology again. But before that, we just had this primal brain. Now, if you think about how would you live with just that kind of brain? So the very, very early man lived by intuition, lived by instinct. You know, all the shamans, the aboriginals, all those old cultures talk about being able to listen to the plants. The plants tell the shaman, you know, what medicine is for which ailment. And they read the stars and the signs in the skies. The Aborigines listen to the sound of the earth. They track through listening to the song of the earth and the animals, etc., etc. So we were much more instinctive and intuitive in those days with that first original brain, remember, 24% of the mind.